Hello and welcome to Box, the football talk show brought to you by Sportology TV with myself, Ali Drew, and my co-host, Uni. On the last episode of Box to Box, we were joined by Jonathan Greenwood from Newcastle Fans TV, who unfortunately was talking about their recent loss to Southampton and looking ahead to their next few games and the talk of the possible takeover and what is going on with that. But on today's show,
guys, this time around, we bring you another huge guest. If you know the online scene, the sort of Fans TV on YouTube, you'd know this guy. The guy works for one of the biggest channels on YouTube, hitting, I think, 900,000 subscribers now, nearly hitting that million mark. Also makes a few appearances on Sky Sports, I see nowadays. None other than Flex from the United States. Flex, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm good. Do you know what? Like, that was a sick hint. That's like made me feel a bit. Oof. Thanks, man. No, I appreciate that, guys. No, great to be here, man. And thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. How is life for you at the moment? Obviously, it's a crazy year. You're smashing it. You're appearing on Sky Sports. You're here, there, and everywhere. How is life for you?
Yes, like everyone else, I suppose. You've got to adapt, and it's tough. You have days where you just think, is normality ever going to come back? Is the way that I make content, go into football, traveling around the world, following United, going to every single game, rain, sleet, snow, wherever it is in the world, is that going to come back? That has entered my mind a lot, but you've got to kind of snap out of that and know that it will come back. It will, but at the moment we've just got to adapt. So it's been really tough, but it's been a way to be imaginative and do more things like this as well, which, traveling around, and maybe I had the time to do. So I'm really excited about things like this and being more imaginative with the content, and yeah, so it's been tough, like it has for everyone, but I've found ways to make it work, I suppose.
Flex, before we sort of continue, obviously we're going to talk to you about everything to do with Manchester United. I think Ali actually wants to ask you about the game before and after, and then I'll go into sort of the more in-depth things that have come out in the last week or so, because I really want to pick your brain on them. But Ali, if you'd sort of talk to him about the games first.
Yeah, well, luckily we're starting on, we're speaking to you after a win. So against Everton 3-1, which is great. It's always good when someone comes on and their team's following on from a win. Just talk to me about that game. Obviously, a great win. Everton have been doing great this season. So it was maybe a little bit unexpected based on United's recent performances.
You see, it's a weird one, Ali, because it's unexpected, but it was expected at the same time. It was a typical Man United performance in terms of, actually, you don't know what performance you're going to get. Do you know what I mean? Our biggest form of consistency is inconsistency. That is what we are. So going into that game, it was on a knife edge. It was very much back into the territory of, oh my God, if Solskjaer loses this game, he might get sacked. Not coming from the club, no genuine noises like that, but with the media, a lot of mainstream media kind of rolling with that whole Pochettino's been called on the burner phone. You know what I mean? He's waiting, he's ready, he's cut his holidays short or whatever. But I tell you what, following Manchester United, especially in our later periods, or our more recent periods, should I say, there's been a lot of times when, whether it's Jose or whether it's been Solskjaer, where they look like they are down and out and they are one result away, and they find it. It happened many times under Jose. Went on a little run. It's happened under Ollie. I remember last year, I think we had City and Spurs in the same week, and it was like, if we don't win these, he could be gone. He won both. He won both, and then we lost to Watford and drew to Everton. So it's just such a Manchester United thing. So that game was a good performance, very good performance, especially going 1-0 down as well. Going 1-0 down, you're thinking, this is it. It's going to happen. 1-0 down early on. And Everton were bad, but I think Manchester United made them look bad for large parts as well. And it was a very good performance.
Because obviously the next game, now obviously an international break, but the next game is against West Brom. What are your sort of hopes to continue? As you say, they're inconsistent, but what are your hopes to continue that sort of...
I hope we can get our first home win of the season, Ali. Honestly, I swear to you, I hope we can get the first win of the season. And you know what? It's very easy to look at this and go, oh, thank God we've only got West Brom to get the first win. That should be an easy game. But you've seen what they've done to Chelsea. They gave them a hell of a difficult game, 3-0 up. And, depending on whether you're a pessimist or optimist, you could say, well, they were 3-0 up and they still come back to 3-3, so they're not very good. Or you could say, well, actually, they might have learned from that, so they're capable of doing that. You saw how hard Tottenham had to work to get their last-minute goal from Harry Kane against West Brom. So they still, I think they're winless, aren't they? So they're still struggling, but it could be a very tough game. But if we turn up and do what we know we're capable of, there's no reason why we can't get our first win. It depends on the injuries. I know Marcus is struggling with a shoulder injury. Obviously, Luke Shaw's out. Hopefully, Telles comes through his game in Brazil. He should be in line to start. Cavani should be in line to start with the absence of Rashford. Maybe there might be a reshuffle there, I would have thought. So we've got problems of our own. The Pogba situation still keeps going on, which I'm sure that will probably be spoken about. So I won't go too much into that. But I'm hoping that we see us play attacking. I'm hoping that Solskjaer can have some confidence in the team he's putting out and put out the best team for the job, man, because you just literally do not know how we're going to turn up.
Flex on a couple of weeks ago, Mauricio Pochettino came on Monday Night Football, and this is when all the rumours sort of spoke out. He came on and then everyone
fell in love.
Exactly what it was. But where do you stand? What are you? Are you sort of Ole in, Ole out? Are you in between? Are you still waiting for some sort of progression? Where do you stand in regards to this whole discussion?
I think for me, the role that I have is very much, speaking to fans and getting their opinion. So this is actually quite refreshing because I don't normally get a chance to kind of put down how I feel. But I feel like I'm in the camp now where I can accept the argument more than I could of why he maybe isn't the right man. I can definitely hear and understand the argument. It's not, having been obviously there for Ollie's tenure and covering it how I have, I've seen people just not wanting to. I've seen people wanting him to fail just because they don't like him.
Yeah.
Just because they just don't think he's very good. And if you offered it to them, I genuinely think there are some people where if you offered Ollie winning a Premier League, because they just don't think he's the guy to do that, they would literally say no. Man United fans, which is awful. So I think there's some people who just have their agendas and really want him to fail no matter what. And then there's people that actually, they have been steadily saying all the time, I just don't see it. I don't see what he's doing. We've had some good results and some players have thrived in certain moments, but we're a moments team. I call us Bounce FC. We play in these little bounces where it's like, okay, we get a spark. Bruno came. Great. It was amazing for a little bit. Or we get a spark where Ollie's found a little pattern of play or a team that works. Like after lockdown, everyone was like, oh my God, we're back. We're back. Then that wasn't short-lived. Then it's like, oh, don't play 4-2-3-1. Play a diamond. Oh, play 5 at the back. That works. We don't know. The truth is, we don't know. And the problem is, we don't know because Solskjaer doesn't know. So I'm very understanding of that argument of why he might not be the right man. I still don't take away from him the good things that he's done. Martial, best numbers since he's been at the club. The emergence of Mason Greenwood. He's got Fred playing, which under Mourinho, he was horrible. And we were questioning if he's even Brazilian. That was happening. So yeah, he's done a lot. He's done a lot of good things. He stabilised the club. He brought smiles to the club. It never takes away from me that he got a job by accident. We have to be real. He wasn't meant to get that job. When you're brought in on an interim, it's to steady the ship while we find someone else. However, even the staunchest Ollie out people were with me in fan cams up and down the country, up and down the world, singing Ollie's at the wheel in front of a camera because the results were that good. Yeah. We can all admit that. I don't care what your thoughts are on Ollie. I have not met one Man United fan who's gone, I'm telling you, I always knew it was never going to work, even when we went on that 17-game run where we was just amazing. I don't care. You're lying. You're lying if you say that. But some people very early on could see the signs. And I think there are signs there, to answer your question, that actually he might not be the guy long term.
You know what? I think after Sir Alex left, I think Ollie sort of gave United fans more exciting football than any other one of our managers. Moisey came. LBG probably gave us the most boring football, to be honest.
Yeah.
Jose was good, man. Whatever people say, towards the end of his sort of tenure at Man United, fair enough, the football wasn't great. But he was a winner, and he always had a winner mentality. We saw it with him and Pogba getting into sort of little altercations. But he was a winner. And Ollie just gave us exciting football. When he came in, I think he won them 11 games in a row, whatever it was, and we were battering teams.
I was buzzing.
It was great. But there seems to be one man who seems to be, sort of the news keeps coming out of him, especially after international breaks or during international breaks. That's Paul Pogba. Another international break gone, another talking. This time around, it's more talking about the club, the atmosphere in the club not being right. There's certain quotes that came out, which I'll just quickly read to you. He spoke to RTF, which is a French sort of paper, I think it is. He's saying that in the club in Man United, we don't have fun, but here it's not the same. We laugh. It's really a family, and the group we have, regulars or substitutes, it's really magical, and that's why we're happy to come to the selection. With Pogba, he tends to say certain things. Sometimes he goes away, talks about Zidane in a nice way, talks about Juve, he's flirting with teams. What do you make of Paul Pogba and this whole situation for the last couple of years that United fans have had to endure every time he goes away, every time he talks to media?
It's just that it's that thing that just never goes away, and it's always the talking point. On this particular occasion, I'm with Pogba on this one in terms of I think he was misquoted, because I know that some quotes came out, and then even the journalist who interviewed him said, "Look, guys, this is what he actually was saying here. Don't try and spin this one." The time before, he talking about Real Madrid. Just why? I remember not last summer, the summer before, because I remember we just got back from China, or we was in China actually. He was in Shanghai, and Pogba was doing the Adidas appearance, and I remember when he said, "I might be looking for a new challenge." Just why? The Mino Raiola stuff. So look, Pogba has sometimes not covered himself in glory with some of the comments he has made, or the people around him has made, or his inability to shut those people up. But this time, I didn't see anything wrong with it. And I'll tell you why. Because for me, he said, "I'm in a difficult moment of my career." Fact, we can see it. I mean, Man United fans are asking for him not to start games. Genuinely, like even some of the staunchest supporters of Paul Pogba as the individual have gone, "Yeah, he's not quite right, just until he can get himself right and we get him into form." The COVID situation he had, the long injury he had last season, then he came back after lockdown. Let's just give him some more time. So he's in a difficult part of his career. I agree with that. So for him saying that, I've got no problems with that. Is it a breath of fresh air? Is it fun when he goes to France? They're the world champions. They've got an amazing crop of players. Is he lying? No, it's fact. At Man United, is it a fun place to be right now? If you ask most of the players, probably not. Do you know what I mean? They're not winning games. They're 14th in the league. It's their worst start in 30-odd years. Ollie's breaking the bad records at the moment without a home win. Is it fun walking into Carrington every day? Probably not. So the argument could be, yeah, but why say that and just, maybe pretend it all is. But for me, I like that refreshing statement. I'd be concerned if Pogba was acting like everything's all right, wasn't admitting he's in a difficult period of his career. Because for him to actually say, that's like him saying, "I'm struggling here. I'm struggling." But when I'm with the French national team, I can kind of park that. I can talk in my native tongue with all the French lads. I feel like I'm home, So in this particular instance, I don't really mind it. I have to say, I wasn't outraged like some people were.
Yeah, exactly. When I looked at social media, there was a lot of people who were sort of just saying we want him out. But when you looked at the quotes, and even you mentioned it there, the journalist came out and said, "Listen, he wasn't really talking about Man United like that. He was talking about the atmosphere within the French team." So I totally get it. The thing is, it's just talks happen all the time. We've heard about Real Madrid, Zidane. Zidane's a great manager to be playing under this, that, and the other. As a United fan, though, forget these quotes this time around. Well, what do you want to do with him? We know, he's signed. He's still got 2 years contract with United at the moment. What do you want to do with him? At the moment, he doesn't seem to be playing his best football, and there's been a period where he hasn't. We're still trying to find his position. Is he playing left of the three? Is he playing in the centre? Does he play deep? Does he play attacking? But in your eyes, what would you want to do with Paul Pogba?
I think the writing's on the wall. Me personally, I would love to see him stay and be able to turn this around and be the player that I know he can be, that we all know he can be. Yeah, his attributes are unreal, unquestionable. And the attitude thing, I do see that a bit differently. I see Paul Pogba as, I don't think he's not trying. I think he's just not playing very well. I don't think he crosses the white line and thinks, "Don't want to be here, so I'm deliberately not going to try." I agree. Paul Pogba, if you know the Paul Pogba, he loves football. I did an interview with his brother, Mateus, and it was an amazing interview. And he was just giving me an insight into the Pogba household and how much they love football. And not just him, but you can listen to any Paul Pogba interview. The guy loves a football at his feet. So anytime he's not doing that, I know he's unhappy. You can talk about whether he definitely wants to do it for United. That's a different question. But I think he's not unprofessional in terms of downing tools, and I do think he does love the club. I think he likes the club. I just don't think it hasn't gone his way. I do think he wants to move, and if Corona didn't come with the COVID situation, I think he would have moved last summer. I really do. I think no one could afford him. Juventus can't afford him. There's reports, that we're seeing recently that maybe that even Real Madrid don't want him anymore because he's been playing badly for so long as well. So you've got that to contend with. So I think that the writing's on the wall. I think it will be a Paul Pogba transfer saga in the summer. But I think also where we could end up having to still keep him, because you've got to remember, we're dealing with Ed Woodward here in Manchester United as a football club and a brand, and there is no way that Manchester United will want to let him go at a cut price because of, the COVID discount, let's say. We didn't get it for Jadon Sancho. They messed up with that. There was no COVID discount there, and Manchester United will not do that for their biggest asset. Might not be our best player right now because in his form, but he's our biggest asset. He's our biggest commodity. And when you buy Paul Pogba, regardless of form, you're buying shirt sales, you're buying the superstar, you are buying the whole brand of PP, as he calls himself. So that's going to be a war. That's going to drag on, and I think he could end up staying again, which is kind of worse because actually Man United got a big decision to make, because do they let it go into the last year of his contract and accept less? So, and it's COVID and clubs still don't have any money. So it's going to be, it's not good. That's why I want to see Solskjaer sort this out, because for me, one side of it is Paul Pogba's not covering himself in glory in terms of his own performances. Can he put his hand on his heart and say he's been at his best level? No, he hasn't. Anyone can see that. But there's been times where he's still been our best player in an awful squad. I remember that at the end of the season before last, there was that fan, that viral video that went around and was giving Paul Pogba a bruise and telling him to F off and all this. That was the season he was our highest assister, highest scorer, highest chances created, highest in every department. Do you know what I mean? Highest in distance ran. What more do you want from him? So, and I remember when Ollie came, he was a big part of Ollie getting the job permanently. He was in brilliant form, and people are quick to forget these things because Bruno's come and has been great. So, I'm a big advocate of Paul Pogba. I love Paul Pogba and I want him to work, but I also am not afraid to criticise him where he's not doing the right things. And on the pitch, he's not. I think where Pogba is being played under Solskjaer in a midfield pivot in front of a back four, I don't think he's disciplined enough to play there. People say he does it for France, he does it for this, he does it for that. It's a whole different setup, and he's playing with 9 other world-class outfield players. Do you know what I mean? So we don't have that luxury at Manchester United, and we don't have that system. So I think he needs to play further forward. Solskjaer needs to go back to playing him where he played and where he got the best out of him, which was in and around the final third, whether it's the inside left channel of a midfield three, whether it's a number 10, whatever. But the problem is now you've got Bruno, and Bruno's numbers are amazing, and he has to play number 10. So really, it's Solskjaer not being able to fit the bits of the puzzle to make it work. Because I think if you have 2 players like Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, you need to find a way for them to play. Or bring in another player that can facilitate them. If Matic can't do it or Fred can't do it, you need to find a way.
Another player that gets quite a lot of sort of attention off the pitch, Marcus Rashford, especially at the moment, and all the sort of good work he's done this year. It's incredible. Just talk to me about the sort of impact he's having. Obviously, he's had an amazing impact on United. He's come up through the ranks, but it's just the work that he's doing outside of football and just as a young man.
Massive, absolutely massive. I think words don't do it justice. I mean, for a young kid, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but he is a young kid, a young man, to literally fight the government. That's what he's done. Let's not dress this up. He's gone, Boris, you're wrong. I'm coming for you. I'm coming. I'm not just going to say, please change it. And a lot of those politicians, I think they think footballer with millions, well, what's he really going to do? And he's gone, all right, watch this. Do you know what I mean? So what he's done is outstanding. And he should be so proud of himself and what he's fighting for. And he's just so humble with it. Away from Marcus Rashford on the pitch, which I'm sure we'll talk about, to go and use your platform to do that is one of the greatest achievements I think a footballer can have outside of football. You talk about players who stand for something, or you talk about sportsmen like Ali and people like that who stood for something, and what people like LeBron James and what they stand for and what they do, what Lewis Hamilton's doing as well. Amazing. And to transfer that out of the realms of a superstar athlete, because they live in a different world, let's face it. Like, they are normal people. They live and breathe the same air as us, but they live a different life. They can literally be like, I'm in this world, the mortals are in that world. Do you know what I mean? But for him to be that humble and go, this is what needs to happen. And look, I know that Marcus Rashford isn't a politician. He might not be the best at how to formulate these types of phrases or the dialogue that you need to have. But what's he done? He's gone, right, I need to find X, Y, Z, and he's built a team of people who can speak the language of the politicians. It isn't as easy as Marcus Rashford just jumping on his phone and going, Boris, please change this. It's never going to happen. You need people in that industry. You need other politicians. You need people who understand the law, who understand politics. You need people like that. So he's actually had to go and build a team. He has a team, no doubt. There is no way Marcus Rashford is doing all of these responses himself. And that wouldn't be safe to do that, because you need to, like I said, know what you're doing. So he's built a team and he's spearheaded that. And I'm just so proud of him, not just as a Man United fan or as a fellow black man. It's nothing to do with that. I'm just proud that someone in our society can use their influence for good.
Whilst he's using his influence for good, the papers like to talk. So I think the Daily Mail put out an article saying that he bought 5 houses.
Don't even get me started on this.
And to be honest, like when you look at stuff like that, this guy's only doing good for people. He's helped out millions, and then I feel like there's an agenda against somebody who's going to fight the sort of government of the time. So somebody needs to write about it. But yeah, a lot of uproar in regards to that. And then Marcus sort of addressed that on Twitter. He's going to get that, though, isn't he? He's going to get some sort of resistance from another group.
100%. I think that he would have expected it, and it's what we always see in society. We always see it. And part of this is about uncomfortable conversations, and people will always say, "Oh, it's a chip on the shoulder, playing the race card, and all of that." I won't swear on here. We can't swear on this.
You can do whatever you want.
All
right. It's lost its effect now, so I'm not going to re-swear. if it comes out, I'll swear. But yeah, no, but it is a load of bollocks. It is. I have to say that, because at the end of the day, we know what it is. The way that black players are reported on in media a lot of the time stinks. We've seen it with Raheem Sterling. We're seeing it a little bit with Mason Greenwood now. The beginnings of it. We're seeing it with for Marcus Rashford to do what he's been doing, and that is just like, that's not even about race. That's just feeding. That's feeding humanity. Like, just doing. Do you know what I mean? Feeding kids. Like, how, if you've got an issue with that, and then you want to kind of spin it and be like, oh, but he's buying £1 million houses, and it just stinks. It just stinks. It's lazy journalism. It's got racial undertones. I'm gonna say it is what it is. And there are people out there. I think it was Max Rushton. Big up Max Rushton. He said it on TalkSport. There is an issue with young black athletes or anyone of colour being really successful, being super rich, and it feeds into this. Even with back to Paul Pogba, or whether it's Aubameyang or whether flashy or the haircuts, it means that they don't care, and versus the white footballer who maybe isn't as flamboyant or doesn't enjoy his life in the way that a black footballer would. Those comparisons are made. I saw Jordan Pickford on top of a table with darts, necking pints, and he was a legend. No one said he was unprofessional. No one said, oh, he's a Premier League player. He shouldn't be out getting drunk. He should be training. And, I didn't judge him and be like, he shouldn't have been doing that. He's enjoying himself. All right, cool, fair enough. But what I'm saying is the narrative wasn't there. I didn't see Jordan Pickford plastered all over the papers saying, what a disgrace. He's out, he's out doing this, he's out doing that. The first thing with the Harry Maguire situation, it started turning into, be careful about mental health and et cetera, et cetera. I agree with that. But the same energy isn't kept with other players. So there is a clear media agenda, whether you see it or you don't want to see it or whatever, it's there and it stinks, and I think it's disgusting.
I'm going to address that as well then in that case, because we did a show last week and I spoke about Mason Greenwood regarding the sort of the media hunt, and I even said it in my little segment there that I do feel like maybe the media is getting bored of Raheem Sterling, who's a successful black player, who's doing great for communities, doing great for football, and maybe they're just moving on to a next target. So I do want to talk to you about Mason Greenwood and the media hunt, and even sort of the crazy rumours that came out over the last couple of days, that articles came out that there was a rape allegation and Mason Greenwood might have been the player involved. And then the girl that was involved, she's actually put on her Instagram that, no, I've got nothing to do with this. I'm not with no Mason Greenwood, anything like that. And then all these talks about him not doing well in training. And then we learn that his close friend committed suicide, which is why he's sort of might be going through a bit of a rough time at the moment. But there seems to be a visible media hunt against Mason Greenwood after what's happened with England. Talk to me about that, Flex, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. I think it's true, you've said it there, young black players are getting targeted by certain media, and it's wrong, man. So just like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, you're spot on in everything you said. It's there. It's there in, excuse the pun, there in black and white. It's there. Do you know what I mean? Because this is a kid who, let me get this straight as well. I'm not asking, or black people aren't asking, or people who just want everyone to be equal. Doesn't matter whether you're black, white, brown. Just people who strive for equality are not asking for footballers to be pardoned of being of accountability. Do you know what I mean? I think there's this bubble that the ignorance cut stems from. We're £1 million footballer. They think they can do what they want. Think this, think that. You have to understand your responsibilities as soon as you become a Premier League footballer. 100%. Let's park that where it is now. But for me, you have to understand that these are young kids. Just because you're a 19-year-old, but your net worth is now 50 million, versus the 19-year-old who's literally halfway through university and just looking to start their life. There's no difference in mentality there. Also, what you've got to remember is being exposed to that level of money, that level of responsibility, that level of limelight can be really difficult to deal with, really difficult. When I was 19, I made loads of mistakes. I dare say you guys did as well. You guys watching it probably did. We all have. So that's still going to happen. That's not going to not happen because you're a professional footballer. Do you know what I mean? And being around a lot of players by doing what I do, I definitely have a different take on players. Definitely have a different take. Even experienced players, because I'm like, these are just normal people. They're millionaires, and like I said, they can live in a different world, but actually they are just normal people, and they will mess up. It can happen. But with the Greenwood situation, it just stinks because I haven't seen the same energy for Phil Foden. No. I'm not one for rumour mills, right? So I don't really like when you hear about what players are getting up to off the pitch and things about girls or, you know, relationships and stuff like that. I don't really like to get into it because I feel like, one, we will never know the real truth. Yeah. Two, it's their private life. I don't condone any of it if it comes out as fact. I just don't really, I'm not really into other people's business like that. Even in normal life, if, you know, you get some people who go, oh my God, did you hear this? I don't care. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like we're very quick to judge on that. And I was seeing reports that Phil Foden has got a young child and, you know, but he was involved in what he was involved with Mason Greenwood. And it was just forgotten about. It was just, I haven't heard anything about Phil Foden since then. He's been in the England squad since then. So I just don't see the same energy towards Mason Greenwood. And like you said, with some of the rumours that are there, at the moment, they're rumours. I haven't seen it blow up into anything more than that. I just leave it where it is. Again, it's not to do with condoning or not condoning because I don't know what's happened. None of us know what's happened. What I do know is that there's a young kid there who, like you said, he lost his friend, did something stupid in the England camp, really, really stupid. Again, accountability. You have to lose your place for that. You have to get sent home. You might get dropped at Man United. You might, Solskjaer. That's one thing I will rate Solskjaer for. He would definitely do the right by the youngsters. Yeah. You have to be held accountable, but it should go no further than that. We should, you know, get back to supporting him. And they're just out. They're out to just kick him down. It was the same thing with Raheem Sterling. It was the same thing with Paul Pogba. It's the same thing with Rio Ferdinand. It's just the same. It hasn't changed. Nothing has changed.
What do you think needs to happen to get it to change? Because obviously, I think maybe towards the beginning of this year, people thought there would be a change, you know, with the Black Lives Matter movement. But it seems like there's a little bit of a sort of movement and advancement with it, and then you get something like the whole Mason Greenwood, you know, sort of targeting, and then you feel like you're just back to square one again. It's just the same thing happening. What do you think needs to change?
Do you know what needs to change? The biggest thing that needs to change, right, is representation at the highest level. So you look at what happened with Greg Clark the other day, right? Yeah. Shocking comments. Awful. Do I think Greg Clark's a racist? No. But what it does show is how out of touch the top of the game is. And don't just believe that that's just in football. Let's go to big companies around the world who have a big say in things. It could be Amazon, it could be Google, it could be Apple, it could be, I don't know, British Gas. I don't know. It could be anyone. You need representation at the highest level. Because for Greg Clark to even think that that's okay to say that means that in and around his table in his meetings, there's probably not people that look like me or you. Do you know what I mean? There probably isn't. And he felt okay to use that language. So representation at the highest level has to change. There has to be reform in structures to allow Black people and minorities the chance to have a say at the highest level. Because until that happens, everything will be tokenism. Everything will be, let's call the Asian guy to talk about extremism, or let's call the Muslim to talk about extremism. Let's call the Black guy to talk about the racial stuff. Let's call a gay person to talk about homophobia. When actually, what needs to happen in these things is that it's not actually the people who are being oppressed who actually need to speak. And it's not necessarily the oppressors who need to speak. It's actually the people who are unaffected by it. Do you see what I mean by that? So I don't experience sexism how a female would, or, you know, to a degree. So it's my job as a person who that isn't part of my everyday life to put my, you know, thoughts and feelings into their shoes and stand beside them and speak for them, because it doesn't affect me, it affects them. So there's no, they can keep going on about sexism, about how it feels to be a woman in football, let's say, or a woman in this field, or a woman in the workplace. You can talk about that till the cows come home as a woman, but you're not listened to. That's the whole reason why this happens. So you need people with power, to come to the table, but also the people that it doesn't affect. And that is what I'm a big champion for, which is why we need, if you're talking about just the Black Lives Matter movement, you need white people to come to support. You need white people to understand. You need other people of color who aren't Black to understand. You need everyone to understand. Do you know what I mean? So for me, that's what needs to happen. And until that does happen, I think we're going to continue to see stuff like that. Who at the Daily Mail has gone, good article, put that out? I can almost guarantee he wasn't a Black person in touch with what's going on. I'm not saying for definite, I could be wrong. And if he was, then shame on him too, or her. But I can almost guarantee it wasn't. And that's the problem. Do you know what I mean? The Sainsbury's advert recently. I don't know if you guys have seen that, and stuff going on around it. It tells you everything you need to know about the actual society that we live in. And it hurts a lot, because as a Black male, as a Black person, I look at it and I think, I don't think anything's really changing. I really don't.
That was always the case with the Black Lives Matter thing, that people were talking that it's great for when it came and people were all responding and, you know, everyone was active. But like you said, it just seems that things are just going back to whatever the normal was back then. Nothing's really changed, which is unfortunate. It's crazy that we live in a society where it's 2020 and we still live in this world. It's mad. But Flex, let's move on to a rumor that I want to discuss with you. Cristiano Ronaldo rumors have come out again. There's talks about, you know, different teams in the world sort of discussing a deal for him. Maybe he might be leaving Juventus. Then Man United obviously pop up, because we pop up with every player available on the market. But in this world, in this bubble that we're living in, if Cristiano Ronaldo became available, Flex, would you take him straight away?
I know you would. I can tell you. You would take him straight away. I done a show on this literally a couple of days ago, yeah? And hear me out on this. Love Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah? Is he better than all of our forwards? Absolutely. Would he score goals at Man United? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. This is what worries me about this, right? You got to remember our regime, right? Look at our structure. Look at our board. Look at our CEO. Look how we operate as a club. Could you see this not happening? Let me paint this scenario to you. Ed Woodward sitting in a boardroom, right?
Yeah.
And going, we had a shit transfer window last year. We've got to do something here. They're all sitting around a table and he goes, do you know what? Let's get Ronaldo. The fans will get gassed. Everyone's going to start getting number 7 on the back of the shirts again. And then we just won't give Ollie all the other stuff because we've got to spend so much on his wages. There's no longevity in it and that, but we're not going to get a defender. We're not going to get another defensive midfielder. Might not even get a right winger. Let's just get Ronaldo. So the issue with this is, for me, is I don't see there being a strong enough plan in place to actually facilitate Ronaldo. I think you get Ronaldo, he comes, it's amazing. We're all, oh my God, Ronaldo's back. Yeah, great. Give him respect. I love Ronaldo. But I think it would stop there. It would stop there. It'd be after COVID, won't have that much more money to invest, or they won't want to keep it. They'll go, we're spending 30 million a year on this guy, 40 million a year on his wages, mate. Whatever his wages are. He's going to be super wages. And what's Ronaldo now? 35?
39, I think he is.
34, 35? Don't get me wrong. He's not a normal 35-year-old. But it's like another Zlatan, but a little bit better. There's no longevity in it. He can't fix our defensive problems. He can't fix our midfield conundrum. He can't fix our style of play. It would literally be relying on individual brilliance if he came. And that scares me. That scares me. It really does. If you said to me, would I rather say Upamecano and, I don't know, Jack Grealish, or Erling Haaland and a defender or something like that, I would take that, because I think we've been in enough trouble because of sentiment already. The whole reason that Mick Phelan, Kieran McKenna, Mike Carrick and Ollie are all in there, the Jolly Boys out and club at Man United, is because of sentiment. It's because we like them. They've got ties to the club. They've been great servants to the club. And we want them to do well. But essentially, sentiment is actually what's got us into a lot of the problems we've got now. So I think there's too much sentiment attached to that. And I don't trust the club. If we was under a well-oiled regime who was going to go, you know what, we get Ronaldo in, he'll be a linchpin, he'll be great for the young players for a couple of years, but we're also going to invest in here, here, and here in the same window. Is that going to happen, spending that much money on Ronaldo in a COVID-stricken transfer window? Nah. So for me, I don't want it to happen. And it's not because I don't love Ronaldo. Because people go, oh, how can you say that? Oh, I just think you've got to skim it down to what it would actually mean. And I believe, in my opinion, what it would actually mean is all those points I just raised.
I just had my FIFA 21 hat on. That's all it was. I just exactly. Playing up in strike.
Oh, my teammate. Yeah.
Great.
So they'd want Ronaldo and they'd expect him to do everything. Like, no other players needed, just Ronaldo to do the whole thing. Exactly. Like, when the show, that's it.
Yeah, or even if they didn't want, or even if they did have an understanding that it isn't just Ronaldo, I'm saying I don't trust the club. I don't trust the way we're run. That would stink of a proper PR move to me. Get Ronaldo back. We've had our worst start to the season in however many years. Let's say we have, God hope we don't, but let's say we finish outside the top 4 or top 6 even and have a shocking season. Not that I'm saying we will, I'm saying if we did, let's get Ronaldo. No, not for me.
You know what, Flex, you actually mentioned the player there that I wanted to talk about, Jack Grealish, somebody who's done well for England in the last game or two, being a good player for the last couple of seasons for Aston Villa. Last season he was great. This season he's proving to be another important player in the team. United were linked to him because of Aston Villa staying up. It seemed like the price was a bit high. But in hindsight, and hindsight's a lovely thing, would you have paid that 70 million that they asked for?
Hindsight's an amazing thing, because on some of the shows we were doing, we were having a good laugh at the fact that actually we were like, all summer, just pay the money for Sancho, just pay it, 120 million. And then when we actually look at it now, and it's not just because he's playing poorly, I'm not that flippant, but I'm like, isn't he actually worth 120 million? Probably not. But Jack Grealish, I'm not going to lie, at the time, when we got Van der Beek instead of Jack Grealish, I was all for it. I'm not going to lie, I'll hold my hands up with that. I was like, bargain. Van der Beek, 40 million. Just the way we're using them, I think, is a disgrace. But bargain. And at the time, I was actually saying, well, you know what? It makes more sense in getting Grealish for 80. It does. Which at the time, it kind of did. It does make more sense. But, you see where I'm going with this. But, yeah, you're looking at Grealish, especially the way he's played this season. And we've always known he's a good player. And he's just the talk of the town right now, because Southgate don't want to admit it. Let's just be real. In the press conferences, in the presses, they're going flipping at Gareth. Like, Jack was brilliant. And he's going, yeah, but Mason was good.
Yeah, I know. There's something about Mason Mount that he loves. I don't know why.
He loves him. He loves him. And it's more to do with now. If I was him, I'd probably do the same thing, because you don't want to lose face. It's like, Jack Grealish is trending. He's on to, like, we lost the game against Belgium and everyone's going, Grealish was sick. Like, he is. Do you know what I mean? He's trending. So if I'm Southgate, I don't want to lose face. Like, I'm the guy who made Waistcoat Wednesdays. I got England to semi-final. Do you know what I mean? So I get Southgate not doing that, but he's a punk for doing that. He is, because I think he should just own it and start to give him the praise. But back to your question, yeah, 80 million does seem like too much. But in how he's playing and what he can go on to be, it doesn't anymore. It doesn't. I have to admit that. I will say this, though. I will say this. I do think we need to be a bit careful because he's playing brilliantly and has maintained that level for a long time. Can't call him world class yet.
No chance.
You can't. For me, anyway, in my, I grew up watching football in the millennial time and obviously the 90s. So many true world class players, and because to me, I think football's crap now. I don't know if you like my personal thing is football shit. There's so many average players that because the standard has dropped from what it used to be, we laud players like they're the best thing, like they are world class, and they're not. They couldn't even lace someone like Zidane's boots or Ronaldinho or Totti or Shevchenko or in their prime, you know what I mean, or R9. Can't get close to these players. So I think with the Jack Grealish thing, especially with the English media, I've criticised them for a lot of things in this podcast. But also, I will say, us as fans, we need to relax sometimes because it's really easy to gas players up. And I'm not saying Jack Grealish won't go on to be a fantastic player because I think he's getting to that point now where he needs to make that move. He needs to make a move. He needs to be playing Champions League. He needs to be playing in the big tournaments for England. Good enough to. He's been playing amazing. His numbers are up there with anyone's since the start of the season for sure. And at Villa, he's always going to be limited as to what he can do, and he single-handedly carried them. I'm not taking anything away from Jack Grealish. I would love him at Manchester United, but call me boring or call me whatever. I'm just like, let me just wait. Let me see. Just keep doing your thing, Jack. Don't buy into this. You're world class and you're this and you're that. Oh, is he as good as Ronaldo and Messi? No, I'm not saying that. He has to be that to be world class, but he's just not there yet. Let's just let him. Let him get there. Let him get there.
Well, based on what you just said then, this will be an interesting question. And obviously you say, you don't think football is at the level that it used to be. So who do you think, out of all the players you've seen play live, who do you think the best player you've ever watched play live is?
It's got to be Messi. It does. I've seen Ronaldo play live as well, obviously. So those two. In terms of other players that I put up there though, Sadio Mane, unreal. Every time I see him play.
You know what, Flex? Go back a little bit as well. Go a little bit further back.
Okay, with other players, yeah. David Silva, okay. Unbelievable. Sergio Aguero. I think. Okay, Henry, you're Henry, so I give you that. I wore my socks high up because of you. I wore vapors because of you and Ronaldo. But Sergio Aguero, I think, other than Henry, I think is the best striker the league's ever seen. Harry Kane is gonna. I love Harry Kane. Yeah, Love's a strong word. I probably shouldn't use that word as a United fan. But yeah, but you know what? This is the thing that I don't mind because I love football. See, I'm tribal when it comes to being tribal about Man United. Yeah, I'm not that person who's like, I ain't gonna rate Harry Kane. Harry Kane, I would break the bank for Harry Kane, Man United. Do you know what I mean? So, Son is another person when I see live. There's certain players that when they get the ball, I'm like, I think something's going to happen. Mbappe's another one. When we played against PSG in them 2 legs before this year, he's another one to get me on the edge of the seat. So the best player has to be Messi because I've seen him live. He's the GOAT, in my opinion.
All right, Flex, let me ask you in another way then. With me, I've been a United season ticket holder home and away. I one of the performances that stood out with me, with one player, was Kaká. When AC Milan came all them seasons ago to Old Trafford, and he absolutely...
They clapped him off.
he tore us apart. Obviously, R9 did his thing at Old Trafford as well. But for me, that was probably one, when it comes to one individual player doing it against United, that performance stood out, and it's in my memories for however long. What about yourself? What when it comes to a team facing United, who have you thought, you know what, bloody hell, this guy's...
You know what, yeah, this is a really weird one. I'm going to say it's a really weird one. And I'll probably give my actual answer afterwards, but I hate Wolves, bro. Wolves.
Why?
Do you know what it is? I like what they do. I like what they've built. We just can't beat them. Like,
they're all
like, honestly, going to Molineux, it's loud, they're on you. I just don't like going there because I don't have a good feeling. They're almost like a bit of a bogey team. So I'll park Wolves over there. They're my little pet hate. Because I actually like a lot of their players as well. I think they're so sick. I think they've got a lot of good players. I'm a big fan of Jota. I'm pissed off we didn't get him for 40 million as well. What a snip. The Kaka one is a big one. That one there. But mine would have been R9 as well. Because when that happened, he tore us a new one. He really did. He was brilliant. He was brilliant. And that was like after injuries and not even. Do you know what I mean? That was just not even trying that hard, that difficult.
Yeah, not even prime. Not
even prime. So that and the encounters we had with Barcelona in their prime, because that team there, they destroyed us in the final. Big up to Paul Scholes though when we beat them in the semis. That was big. On the road to winning it, to be fair. Yeah, but what a goal that was. But you still feared them when they had Eto'o, David Villa, Busquets, quite young then, but was amazing. Iniesta, Xavi, Messi. That team there is when I thought, shit, got to play them. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, so I'd say prime Barcelona.
You know what? Before we let you go, another question I want to ask you is: we've been linked, and United have been linked to a lot of great players, been in negotiations with a lot of great players. Which one player do you feel like you would have wanted in the team that came so close? There was talks about Robin. Robin came to Carrington. He got shown around. Next thing you know, he signed for Chelsea. Ronaldinho was probably one of the biggest ones. Yeah. Moved to Barcelona. Obviously, we got Ronaldo, so that's all compensated for it in that time. But yeah, give me your sort of...
A mad one is, remember when we were always going to get Wesley Sneijder?
Yeah, every season. I think we're still trying.
Like I remember when Wesley Sneijder was in his prime, I used to get proper gassed about that signing. Just never happened, but we were always in for him. So, but it's the Ronaldinho one. 100%. It really is the Ronaldinho one, because I remember when we were linked with him and like thinking, oh my god, like he could actually come. Like Ronaldinho could actually come to United. Didn't happen. Custard pie in my face. And even actually, who was the other one? I hate this one because it's actually Di Maria, who did actually end up coming. But because of how it turned out and what I think of him now, at the time I was so excited.
Yeah,
him and Falcao, I was over the moon. I can't just kind of shift the conversation here to biggest flops, I suppose. Apologies. But yeah, so I was excited about those. But the one, in terms of your question, who we missed out on that I really wanted to get would have been Ronaldinho for sure, and more recently Erling Haaland.
Yeah,
because Ollie, he's your boy. Like, you brought him in, and this goes back to the argument of Ollie and that. I'm like, he didn't even choose you. Like, you got him going at Mulder. He's your guy. It's Norwegian. What's going on? And he went, nah, not for me. You're right. Jude Bellingham. We put him in the back of a Mercedes and showed him Carrington and said, come on, lad. Yeah? Come on, you're only from up the road. You're only from Birmingham. You ain't got to move far. He's gone, nah, I'd rather go Germany, learn new language. Nah.
It's crazy. But you know, where we're at. But it's also happened in the Sir Alex, I suppose. So,
yeah, true.
It is what it is. But in regards to one player that I wanted when he was at Fulham was Moussa Dembele. I wanted him because I thought he was class. Now you can ask Ali. Actually, we've spoke to a lot of like former players on this. So we've had Danny Murphy, we've had a few ex-Tottenham players, and when we've asked them the best player that they've ever played alongside, they've always said Moussa Dembele. They've also said that he's been one of the most underrated players in the league. They said he left too early. Fantastic.
I think he left too early as well.
He did.
From Spurs.
Yeah, they've all said a few have said him and said it's like it's not an obvious one. They say to them it's obvious, but to everyone else, everyone's like, oh, okay. But they're like, yeah, totally underrated.
Yeah, he was so strong on the ball. And you know what it was? When he played, because he didn't score or assist loads, you're like, to the naked eye, if you don't kind of study your football or you don't watch football in a certain way, you won't understand what players of that type do. And he was a proper destroyer, and he could carry the ball really well.
I think the same goes for Carrick when he was playing.
Listen, that guy. That guy, Michael Carrick. Listen, he is, I reckon, I'm going to say, I think him and James Milner, I think, are the most underrated footballers of our generation. Yeah, I would say.
I agree.
Because James Milner, as much as I hate Liverpool, he is a quality player, you know. He is a proper professional. Quality on the ball, understanding of the game, makes the right decisions, delivery of ball, tackles, great strike on him, everything. But Michael Carrick, yeah, he should have, and this goes back to that golden generation what we had of midfielders for the England team. They had to find a way for that to work. They just did, and we couldn't. And as a result of that, Michael Carrick never got anywhere near as much England caps as he should have got. But at Man United, we all know anyway, we appreciate him to the cows go home. And Tottenham fans will tell you the same thing as well. Even West Ham fans to a certain degree.
Finally, Flex, are United still win the league this season?
You know what? It's open. You never know. If we can get our act together, you look at Spurs. Did they think they'd be in a title challenge? You know, under Jose, they got a bit of consistency together. They're not playing amazing. They're scraping through games and just getting the W's. But it shows you if you can get a bit of consistency, no matter how, you can just be at the right end of the table. Imagine we was in Spurs positions, picking up a little 1-0 here. You're not quite playing well and that, but you're up there. If we were like second in the league right now, and you saw how Liverpool are with their injuries, you saw how Man City are with how they're playing. You're looking at Leicester being in around it. All right, you might not get carried away and say we're going to win the league, but you're going to be like, you know what? Let's just see what happens. Yeah. But again, we're not already out of it mathematically, but we ain't started well, we're 14th. So no, we're not going to win the league, guys. We're not.
Who do you think is? Who do you think will?
I still think Liverpool will win the league. I know they ain't even got a back four right now, but
they've got like no players left. Everyone is injured.
But I think what will happen is, which will make it even more painful, which would be a typical United thing, is that they go on to win it, having contended with what they've got to contend with. Because let's face it, I've always said Liverpool never get any injuries. Salah's always fit, Mane's always fit, Van Dijk, all of them. Now, you can't argue that they've had their fair share of injuries to all of their stars. So I think what will happen is they'll win it, and we'll have to forever hear Liverpool fans telling us the season we did it as NHSFC. You know what I mean? We didn't do it. So, yeah.
Cool. Flex, we've taken up a lot of your time. Appreciate your time and you coming on to our little show here. Obviously, the United Stand is a big thing. How many subscribers are you guys on now?
900 and something now. Got to 900 a few weeks ago. Amazing.
Congratulations.
Amazing story. Thank you. And just, the road to 1 million has now started, man. It's been, I can't believe it. Yeah, it's been crazy.
But your story is crazy, man. You went into this whole YouTube thing. You were a teacher, right?
Yeah. I don't, mate. I look at things sometimes and I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? I'm in a press conference asking Ollie questions. I'm like, why am I in here? What's going on? But yeah, it's amazing. It just shows you. That's why my advice to anyone would be, just like, don't be afraid to live your life, man. Don't be afraid to try things. I didn't mean to do this. I fell into it. If this opportunity didn't come to me, I would still be teaching. I love it. I love working with pupils. I love working with young children. But I've got the most amazing career now, following Man United and talking about football, plus other stuff as well that's led outside of football. It's just amazing. So, yeah, big up to anyone who is not sure about taking the leap of faith and trying something that they're not sure about. Don't let anyone tell you can't.
Flex, keep smashing it up, man. Good.
Living the dream.
You're doing the dream. You're doing great stuff. Keep smashing it up, and I'm a United Stand watcher anyway, so I'll be watching your shows. But yeah, guys, Flex from the United Stand. Hopefully, we get you back on at some point to talk football again.
Yeah, shout me, man. Whenever you guys want, man. I'm up for it. Shout me.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Flex.
Thank you, mate.
No worries. Enjoyed it, man. That was it.
Great talking to you.
Guys, that was Flex from the United Stand talking about everything to do with Man United. Guys, we are trying our best to get you guys good quality people to come on the show, but we'd also appreciate your support. So please make sure you like, subscribe, share our content wherever you can. We've also got our social media links below, so give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. But yeah, definitely just keep sharing our stuff. The bigger we get, hopefully we can get you guys some more high quality content. My name is Uni. This is my colleague Ali Drew. Thank you very much for tuning in to Box to Box. Take care.